And shout out to Renegade for the recommendations. Let's check this one out. This is from Sissith. Drop a preemptive like or drop a sub if the video's good. And if you haven't already, go check these out, guys. Who is Lowlights? Let's get into it, man.
Arknights is one of the most famous gacha games to have ever been released. From story to music to gameplay, there is hardly anything not good about the game. Hypergryph did not only...
Big statement. And then somebody who's just joined it. Man, I'm trying to, like... Story's good. Music's good. I'm really liking the gameplay, which I didn't think would be the case. You know, when I first looked at it, I was like, I'm gonna play that shit. Should be tower defense game. What the fuck? It's kind of fire. It's actually kind of fire. Recruit system, awesome. Freebies, great. Yeah, man. Characters as well. Setting. Yeah, there is a lot of good things. A lot of good things to say about the game, to be fair.
Only develop, but also
I'm sure the more I play it, I'll have more critiques, but
and on top of everything, it was actually their very first game they ever worked on. But from all of Hypergryph, only one man became the face of Arknights. Nearly every Arknights player knows him. It is the legend Hai Mao, also known as Lowlight.
And this happens for a lot of companies, though, doesn't it?
Besides that,
I think this happens for a lot of companies. Some just end up having their aura farmers, aren't they? You know, Solon does it with Kuro. He does it here. You know, you got Kojima. I know that's not a gacha game, but a lot of games tend to have that guy. You know, the guy kind of thing.
I know nothing.
If you're in the community, at least, anyway.
So it was time to ask the question: who is Lowlight?
Okay. The Godhand. Try first all. Bro, that's fucking wild, man. We're not even going to get into the Ansel discussion.
16th of February 1991 in the Shenzhen province. This is where Lowlight was born.
He's only kind of young, isn't he? He's only, what,
he was
34?
But beside that, he also
33?
had huge interest in art. This led him to be a student at the Academy of Art in China. He was still a young adult, but this is already where he made crucial decisions which gave him an edge over other entrepreneurs. You might have heard the advice that you have to make connections with skilled or rich people to be successful in life.
It's not true. Well, it is. It kind of is true. It's not what you know, it's who you know. But also, work ethic will always do you so well in life, you know? It will always do you so well. But let's not pretend that being born with a silver spoon in your mouth isn't a really, really, really good buff to start life off with, you know what I mean?
And this is exactly what Lowlight is so amazing at. He made crucial connections with people from all over the Doshin community.
Networking so important, isn't it?
Nori Setsi and Huoxiang Yutu. Nori Setsi became later the artist of, for example, Silence, Saria, Magellan, Kafka, and many more. And Huoxiang Yutu, who later became the artist of Exia, Lapland, Mayer, Mostima, Nien, Dusk, and many more. They were not just hired to draw those characters, they later become part of Hypergryph itself. But Lowlight wasn't just making connections. He himself was honing his skills to be a better artist. He made a ton of different Doshin fan art, and they're still up to display even today.
Dude's legit,
his
right?
His first few artworks were mainly based around Toho, since he was a massive fan of it. But there are also a lot of other pictures that were just intriguing to look at. One of which is actually the first version of Calcit. This was back in 2015 in April. 2 years before Arknights was even in production. On those sites, he actually had various different usernames. One of them was obviously Lowlight, but there was also Kyrilenko, and my absolute favorite one and most baddest sounding one, Umineko. Now I've talked about the bonds he made with artists, which certainly were very important. But I would say the most important connection...
Like, this is like, obviously, I feel like, you know, obviously there's a lot of this in the West as well, right? And I'm not saying that a lot of developers are, it just, a lot of when you like look into a lot of the stuff that's going on coming out of Asia, specifically China at the moment in the gaming space, it kind of feels like old school Western game development in the, you know, there's like, you get these small groups of like dedicated, enjoyers of gaming and the culture that gaming overlaps with as well, you know? And gamers themselves, and not just that play games, but they are part of the culture. They get it, you know what I mean? They get it. Where like it feels like that's a little bit lost in the West at the moment. Not all of it, because that's generalizing. You know what I mean? It feels like almost sometimes in the West, it feels like they're a little bit antagonistic towards us, where, you know, for all the problems Gacha has, of course, but like from the developer side of things, you know, a lot of it does feel like passion projects, you know what I mean? There's a lot of garbage as well, there is. But there also is quite a few people who seem incredibly passionate about this beautiful genre, this beautiful culture of gaming, you know.
The connection he made was with a very special person called Yu Shong, who later was the founder of Sunborn, previously known as the Mega
Man,
Team.
young is,
This company is also known for making gacha games, and the most well-known one, where actually Lowlight took a huge part in it, was Girls Frontline. But this is not even the most interesting thing about this.
Okay, see, I know a little bit to this, but I'm learning lore here, guys. I'm learning lore.
When I read this, it absolutely blew my mind. In 2013, Sunborn released a game called Codename Bakery, which was a game adaptation of the novel Girl of the Bakehouse.
Okay.
Never heard of it?
No.
Well, me neither. But I was able to figure out, not only was it developed by Sunborn, this game was also developed in collaboration with another famous company called Studio Game Master.
Okay.
The reason why this is so insane is because Studio Game Master is actually known nowadays as Yostar.
Oh shit, I was just about to say, am I supposed to know those guys? I don't, but okay, I know those guys. Okay.
In his
So
time
dude
at
had connections
Sunborn,
with Yostar
he
since
was able to make
back in the day,
connections
then yeah.
not only with people that worked on Girls Frontline, but also various artists, and Yostar that is nowadays a publisher, all by himself. His network was growing, and he had a lot of people he can talk to and had a lot of friends in various different branches.
Dude was doing
And
his
suddenly,
dailies IRL,
everything
right?
was connected.
Bro was
Sunburn
farming.
worked with Studio Game Master. Lowlight was part of Sunburn. And later Studio Game Master became Yostar and ended up being the publisher of Arknights. Seeing how everything is connecting absolutely blows my mind. But then the next important question is, how is Lowlight connected to Hypergryph? Well, Lowlight quit
Not gonna
Sunburn
lie.
in 2006.
Dude looks kind of chatty in that picture, right? You know? He looks like he's doing an Apple seminar or something.
17. The reason for this is unknown, but the CN community suspects different views on the game thematics and other aspects of the game on Girls Frontline were the
Never
reason
played
for
Girls
it.
Frontline.
And with that, he officially ended his friendship with Yu Shong. But he had other friends from Sunburn and Yostar that had the same vision, and they went on to found Hypergryph. The Chinese name of Hypergryph translates to eagle horn, which obviously refers to their logo. They also made an official mascot drawn by someone called Bashi, and she looks super gorgeous.
I like
Her
that as
name
well.
is
The
Miss-
companies like will, you know, they'll have two separate names for EN and CN as well. You know, because probably wouldn't, it doesn't roll off the tongue so much does it eagle horn. Actually, though, then again, it's not that bad. You know, as Hypergryph eagle horn. You know, one's got a little bit more order, right?
Hypergryph. As soon everything was set in place, they didn't waste much time and immediately started working on their very own gacha game. Even though Hypergryph was just founded, their employees were already equipped with a ton of experience in
Leo.
sales. Many of the employees are also the alumni of China Academy of Art, which also guarantees that we can expect art of the highest level. They also hired former members of massive.
Well, you know, I think in regards to like E2L2D stuff, the artwork and like skin stuff for Arknights is definitely up there, right? You know, like say for me, when I think of like the best looking stuff in that regards in the space at the mini, Kuro, you know, just look at the latest Zani stuff, you know, the splash art, beautiful. Arknights do a really good job of it. I think there's some really good stuff in the Zenly space as well, like top tier shit, man. So it makes sense with the people who have been involved with it, doesn't it?
Fleck, which was a company focusing on illustration, concept art, 3D assets and animation, and also Cyber Games, which is a Japanese game developing studio who worked on a lot of games, like Uma Musume, Princess Connect Redive, Shadowverse, Grand Blue Fantasy, Idolmaster and much more. I cannot put in words how stacked the Hypergryph employment list is. And since
I bought that game, yeah, man, planning to farm that game, and I played it for like 2 hours, and then I don't know what happened. I think I just like magpied out, man, and got distracted by something shiny.
Lowlight, who already worked on a super successful game called Girls Frontline, was the head producer for Arknights.
I like that code.
We were sure this will be a masterpiece. In only 2 years, they managed to develop and publish a hyper successful game. And this really was the Arknights we know today. Many Girls Frontline players regarded to it as what Girls Frontline could have been. What was super rare at the launch of Arknights for a Chinese server was that Hypergryph was the self-publisher of the game. Just to clarify the terms here, the developer of the game is the company who produces it and, like the name says, develops it. The publisher is responsible for the release, manages the servers, takes on the marketing including ads and merch, and
which still to this day, some people really struggle to understand the discernment between publishing and development, don't they, as well?
Support for the players. Publisher do not produce the game. They are only there to keep it running. Trying to do all of that yourself is not a task many would be able to be capable of. It did work for just a Chinese server.
It's why you see a lot of games do that. And this is why I say, I understand when new games come out and they might only release in CN, you know, and then you have global being a bit behind, and then they go to a publisher. You can understand it. It's a hard thing to do when you're first starting out, you know. Publishing comes with a lot of other things like connections, understanding a lot of the regulations, and having the assets to be able to make things happen on a global scale. You know, it's a lot easier to get up and running in a particular region than it is to get global, especially from CN. You know, things have gotten easier, but I think there's a lot more barriers sometimes for companies to get out now, whether that's on the CN side or the global side of thing. I think there's just a little bit more friction sometimes, which has eased over the recent years, which obviously I don't know if it's going to get worse again now because we know what's happening in the world, which I hope not, because, you know, at the end of the day, just imagine how good the world would be, man, if, like, you know, Russia and China and the West were just chill guys, you know? We were just chill guys, man. Yeah, man, we you know, you know those memes of, like, society today, if this. Like, that would legit be real, though, right? Maybe. I don't know.
But
we'll be getting there, though.
Once they tried to go to Japan, to global, that wouldn't be possible anymore. If only Lowlight had already connections to a publisher.
Cool.
Well, yes. As previously mentioned, Studio A Master is not developing games anymore. They changed their name to Yostar, and their main focus is now publishing games. This was absolutely perfect, and it was quite clear who is gonna be the publisher for Arknights then. And Yostar certainly didn't disappoint. It was a massive success, and not just in Japan, also in global as well. Since its first release, Arknights is now 4 years old, and pretty much on every server, it's still a massive success. Lowlight is currently the vice president and the head producer of Arknights, and somehow managed to be highly regarded by any community. JPCM.
Who's the top dog in Enfield then? I haven't really looked into, like, the staff structure actually at Enfield. Who's head development? Who's the head honcho for Enfield?
And global, Korean, etc. It doesn't matter who you ask.
Yo, I was about to comment on that actually, Renegade, when you said that. Yostar certainly didn't disappoint how this sentence has aged. I was thinking, like, actually, according to quite a few people in my community, I don't know if they'd agree with that.
People love Lowlight, and this rightfully so. Who could hate someone that not only creates the best waifus, but also is the best waifu? You already are aware that he is the artist of Cult Sid, but also 12F Doctor, and my absolute favorite, W, were drawn by him. And there was actually one thing he did which just is outstanding to me. He did a cross-dress once of Andriana, and it absolutely looks amazing.
I'm having Ansel flashbacks.
I could have never expected this was Lowlight when I first saw it. He also appears quite frequently on anniversary streams, and every time he does, the chat goes wild. He is so charismatic and people just must love him when they see him. What do you think of him if you just see this clip?
It's like, how often do you get this with Western personnel in games? You know, you just don't so much anymore, do you? Maybe the odd ones here and there, like, you know, that one guy who made that. What was that game recently? I don't know if he's a French dude. You know, he usually does the split screen games. He's kind of like that. He's he's a passionate game developer, and people seem to really like him. And like he gets a lot of applause whenever he pops up. You know, what is it? The one who's like fuck the Oscars or whatever. That dude. You know, the West used to have a lot of these kind of people in the gaming space. You know, they were the focus point for a lot of different games, weren't they? That's kind of gone now, I think, for a lot of the companies. Todd Edward, yeah, but even that slid a little bit, hasn't he? I think Todd Edward lost a massive amount that time when he was talking about bugs and everybody started laughing and he was like, no, seriously, it just works. He's like, but does it though? Does it? 16 times the detail.
This just makes you wish that every hair producer is like this. It just makes you like him just so much more, without anyone noticing. Arknights without Lowlight just wouldn't be the same anymore. And with that, he became the face of Arknights. I've been part of many...
That's fair. I'd say the same thing with Solon as well, with Kuro. You know, I think he does feel like a beating heart of that company.
Many communities. But it's very rare that just one person becomes like a backbone for an entire game. And I am glad I was able to witness it for Arknights. But this is not where Hypergryph's story ends. Another thing that
Kojima's probably the biggest example, right?
Was in the same avenue.
Yeah, welcome back, T.
MiHoYo, the creator of Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, and Honkai Impact. I swear to God, there is 100% a connection there as well. Anyway, in 2021...
I wouldn't be surprised. That's a funny thing as well. You know, with a lot of the tribalism that goes on in gacha, people don't realise that usually when you're in an industry, of course you're competing. Now, sometimes things might be a little bit more cutthroat and, you know, normal human dynamics that happen in a competition. You got people PvPing each other about their games and being super toxic about how my game's better than your game and fuck your game and fuck this and fuck that. While the dudes who are making the game are probably sitting back having a whiskey together, you know, chilling out, laughing, like watching the cash roll in.
Hypergryph joined the Backlash Alliance alongside MiHoYo and Lilith Technology. The Backlash Alliance is a rating system for their games to prevent toxic people and keyboard warriors to harass people and protect their employees.
Okay.
But at the moment, the government hasn't implemented the system yet. As for the developing part of Hypergryph, it was clear Arknights shouldn't be the...
Speaking against you, did you know I didn't know that he almost hired Lowlight. No, I didn't. I believe Lowlight's still part of Enfield since it's just different studio. One where they have a really different... Well, it's just because he said he was the vice president in regards to... I'm assuming that's in Hypergryph, right? But in regards to, like, you know, sometimes their focus will be like, you know, there might be have a share in the company, a co-owner or something, but they end up being a particular part of management in a particular game. You know, where maybe you'll see them shift roles potentially. Oh yeah, I was just curious of I'll have to have a look actually. I'm gonna have to have a look on the website to see what the kind of the structure is. I'm kind of interested.
In 2021 as well, another game was announced. This was X Astris. At the moment, we don't know much about the game, besides what we have seen in the few trailers they provided to us. All we know is that it will be a turn-based fighting game, which will not be a gacha game. It be instead a one-time purchase game, which I am honestly very intrigued about. Usually gacha games regenerate a lot more money, and this lets me believe that Hypergryph isn't really doing this for the money, but rather because it's their passion. Everyone that played Arknights.
Do you reckon that this was kind of like a, although I know it's its own standalone thing, do you reckon this kind of was almost potentially like a testbed, you know, to start branching out and learning the skills to potentially, you know, be a part of in the Enfield development maybe? Although, like, when did this come out? It's not been out ages, has it? So maybe not, because, like, you know, Enfield's got to have been in development for a while now, right? I wonder if part of that was, it was like maybe like we'll have this little passion project, we'll sell it, and, you know, as long as it makes money, then it helps kind of, you know, up our skills for working on the next big project, maybe.
Probably felt the same thing looking at the gacha rates.
Yeah,
and
this is
how
an older
generous
video,
the
yeah.
game is in general.
Still interesting,
Having
though.
one game in production by Hypergryph was for the community awesome news. But actually, later in 2022, they announced a second game they would be working on. This was Arknights Enfield.
Okay,
And since I've been
alright.
part of the community for 3 years, witnessing how wild the community went was just amazing. But sadly, like it was with X Asterisk, we don't have much information about Arknights Enfield either.
We do now, bro. It's fucking sick. It's fucking sick. I should write message. Game's good. Trust.
But one thing is clear, once Arknights Enfield drops, that game will obliterate all viewer numbers Arknights has managed to reach so far. But right now, all we can do is wait and see what kind of amazing things Hypergryph,
I remember this
Lowlight
gameplay when it
plans
was
for us
first
in the
shown.
future. But
Soon
with
as I saw
that,
it,
I hope you liked the
I was
documentary, and if you did,
interested.
I just set up a Patreon. There you can watch my old video that are actually in German, so hey, but like you get early access to all my documentary videos and hopefully the other videos as well.
That's some COD.
So if this is something for you and if you enjoyed the series and you want to support it, then maybe consider subscribing on Patreon. But with that said, I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, leave a like and subscribe. But with that said, I would say have a nice one, and bye bye from the side, have a good one, and see ya.
That was a good video, that was. Yeah, I learned shit. I learned shit I didn't know before this. Yeah, great video. Older one, yeah, this is like a year ago, but hey, I enjoyed that, I did. I enjoyed it. Everything's still pretty relevant there, apart from obviously who doesn't know how sick Enfield's gonna be. But yeah, that was a good one, that was. Dude, he's one of those, like I say, one of those a beating heart of a team, right? Again, for me, like kind of how Solon is, you know, I suppose when you look to like the granddaddy of all that, it is Hideo, isn't he? You know, like when you think of Hideo, like he almost transcends the game, doesn't he? In a sense, he's such a big character.